Hey guys, before the video starts, we want to mention that we're doing a giveaway courtesy of Boundary Bay Brewery. If you are a subscriber, or if you subscribe by May 13th, you will be eligible for winning some merchandise from the brewery. There are 3 total spots for winners for this giveaway, so the chances are truly in your favor at the moment. On May 13th, we will make a video announcing the winners. Best of luck, guys.
Welcome back to the beer table. Once again, I'm John.
I'm Gary.
I am Tom.
And I'm Ed.
This week, we're doing something special. We are at Boundary Bay Brewing in Bellingham, our favorite local brewery.
Oh, yeah.
We all spend a lot of time here. We love this place. And we're with Ed Bennett, the founder and owner of Boundary Bay. And
Welcome.
Ed's going to give us a little a history on his brewery.
Sounds great.
Why'd you get in the beer business, Ed?
Well, thanks for coming. And I have a fairly unique background to the beer industry. I sort of had a direction change in my life. I was a CPA, MBA, and doing tax returns, and kind of decided I wanted to take a little different direction. So I decided I'd go back to school and become a winemaker. Not a brewer, but a winemaker. And so I, 2.5 years at the University of Washington doing prerequisite work, and then I finally got accepted at UC Davis, the premier wine school in the United States. So I started taking classes there. This was in 1986, and it was right in the middle of the craft beer movement. And they were also the only public university that had a malting and brewing program. So most of the winemakers that were there were also interested in beer, and the saying goes, it takes great beer to make great wine. And so they take the classes, and so I started taking the beer classes as well. And while I finished my degree and wrote my thesis in wine, I did all the classes, and that sort of planted the seed to have my own brewery. And I worked in the wine industry for a while, and then finally I decided I wanted to get back up to the Northwest where I was from, and this kind of worked for me, the concept of having a brew pub. I had been to almost 100 brew pubs, and but I kept coming back to this, and I sort of centered in Seattle where I was from, but then I started looking at other communities, and I found, went to many communities that didn't have one. This was in 92, and then I finally found Bellingham. I had come through here a few times before, and it's a great town, great beer town now, and so I finally found this building, our current location, and we started construction in 1994, July, and then we finally opened in September of 96. So,
Which was a long wait. I was at the door every Friday waiting and watching you sand, and so when is this guy going to open this place? Come on.
I think you helped them lay some of the brick and mortar, didn't you?
Well, I had been to the McMinimans down in Portland in those mid-'80s, about the time, before Robbie you, and I had the same thing. It was like, we have to have one of these in Bellingham.
Yeah.
And so Ed got it first.
Well, it's a great location. We're right across the street from the farmer's market, and that was probably, people would come down here wondering when we were finally going to open. But it took longer than we thought. The building, it was built in 1922, and we pretty much had to rip it all apart and put it back together as far as the floors, and we had to prop up brace the floors as well from underneath so that we could build a brewery on top of it. It's all wood floors, and but I think and we've been growing ever since we've been open, and to the point where last year we did 6,500 barrels of beer.
Wow.
And to the point where 3 out of the last 4 years were the largest brew pub in the United States based on beer production. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no problem.
I was going to say, it sounds like you've done your research with visiting all the brew pubs that you did. What was the first beer that you brewed? Commercially, I mean, for sale.
It would have been, if you remember back in 95, it was kind of a unique time where people were just getting into the craft beers, and so I'm pretty sure it was an ESB, British Bitter Pale Ale, and so we were doing lighter style beers. In fact, our brewery was built around the beers that were being consumed in those times. They were like ambers and blondes and believe it or not, our flagship beer now, our IPA, we didn't even brew early on. It was about a year into it. There was this new beer that everybody was starting to drink, and so we decided, well, we get on that, and we started brewing it and tweaking it and coming up with our different malt and hop profile, and now we brew more IPA than any other beer that we make here.
The evolution of the hop head.
Yes.
Well, that's really a Northwest. I mean, I got lucky because I moved back here in '96 from England after living there for 10 years. So I moved from drinking beer all over Europe to coming back to what I thought would be Budweiser and Coors again. And then all of a sudden, here's Boundary Bay. And, I just went from there and was able to, survive. And it's just from there. It's
and
just
now
fun.
thrive.
Yeah, now thrive.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. I mean, we, as the saying goes, we brew beers that we like to drink. So we kind of push most of our beers are still in the category profile, but we're kind of on the more flavorful side, the more hoppier side, the more maltier side, things like that. But another trademark I think that we do is, and it kind of goes back to my wine background, is that we still try to keep the beers in balance.
Yeah.
So even if we have an extreme beer like an IPA, it still has a good balance of hops and to the malt, so it's very drinkable.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar, guys?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
how do
something
I
we talk
how do
about
I
all the
characterize
time.
what the IPAs I like? If it doesn't have a wonderful marriage of the hops with the malt, I don't want it. I don't want just to have my head blown off with hops. Like some people, that's all they care about.
Right.
Well, when it comes right down, you're tasting 60 IPAs. The one that's for me that does it is the one that's this wonderful balance that changes on the palate for a whole minute, not something that just.
Right.
And Ed's IPA is, I got to admit, is right there at the top.
Absolutely. And it's won awards to prove it. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, a little later on, there was this new style coming out, and they were called Imperial IPAs. So again, that's kind of part of the craft beer movement, is experimentation, but also kind of push beer styles and come up with new styles, be innovative at the same time. And so that we were one of the first breweries to do an Imperial IPA. And again, it took us a little while to tweak it and things like that. And we've won national and international awards on that beer as well. But again, that's an extreme beer, and it's not one that you drink all the time, but
I do whenever I can get it.
Absolutely.
hopefully we'll be able to taste some later on today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Along with your barley wine. Now, did you get into Imperial IPAs? Did the barley wine come before?
Barley wine came a little before.
Okay.
Barley wines have been around for a long time.
Right.
And that is a very extreme beer as well, but it tends to be less hoppy, higher in alcohol, and but try to get that balance, maybe a little sweetness along with it. So
Yeah, and again,
perfect.
your Old Bounder's got. That's what I look for in a barley wine, is something that can maintain the hops at that strength, because alcohol seems to kill off the hoppiness.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
Right.
when it can stand up to that, and like Ed says, you get that balance again. That makes a good.
Absolutely. What's in
Barley
the
wine.
future for Boundary Bay?
Well, and
Where are you
probably
going?
noticed we're outside here. We're in the beer garden, and this is a good time of year that everything's starting to get in bloom. And we up here in the Northwest, we can finally get outside and enjoy beers where they're meant to be consumed.
Absolutely.
So the beer garden came along a little later, and about 5 years after we opened, and we keep evolving. We keep trying to change and adapt as well, not only from our restaurant standpoint, our food and everything like that, but now we're trying to keep up on production. So we're in the planning stages right now. I've just ordered more fermentation tanks, and we're building a production building next to our current brewery. So we don't have to build a whole new brew house, but we will be able to ferment a lot more and probably add about 35 to 40% to our current capacity.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And how many barrels a year are you brewing now?
Right now, about 6,500.
6,500. And where do you expect to be after
Probably 8 to 9,000.
Oh,
somewhere in
yeah,
there.
very
That's
nice.
a pretty good jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take it gradually. We only there's a lot of demand for our beer in bottles, and right now only 5% of our production is in bottles. So it's mostly draft, and then obviously we sell a lot of beer here at the brewery as well.
Right.
So if you
Right.
do live in Bellingham, you know how wonderful this place is if you've been here. If you don't, if you are in the surrounding parts south of us, you got to get up here.
Yeah.
Try
Please
this.
make Boundary a stop.
It's a must too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. We're standing right above.
a
There's a
landmark.
stage down below us. They do live music on the weekends and during the week. This in the next few weeks will just become a nightly party. This is really, really fun. So be sure to try to stop in here.
Right.
Ed, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for coming.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Ed.
All right. Cheers.
Always a pleasure. Good.
Fun.
Good.
Thank
you
you.
bet. Absolutely. And thank you for coming.
Join us again.
Yeah.